Hi, folks. Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you're having a good day. I am. It's a Friday. And at any rate, today, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about some basic economic terminology. It's terminology that you need to have an understanding of so that you can watch the next video. The next video is on issues in the U.S. trade-China agenda. And some of the issues are economic, so we need some basic economic terminology. So the terminology I'm going to explain in this short video is going to be about trying to solve a problem. And the problem is, how do we create a fair playing field in our economy where that encourages people to work hard and be creative and invent things, but everybody's on an equal footing so that everybody's competing fairly. So one of the things that we have in our economy, and a lot of economies around the world, is called intellectual property law. And intellectual property law is things like patents and copyrights. So if you create an album and you're an artist and you create an album and you have a copyright over that, it means you're the only one that can sell that music and you're the only one that can make the money off of that music. Nobody can copy you without your permission. So that's for like music and books and that sort of stuff. There's also patents, which are for machines. If you invent a machine, a car, a computer, something like that, or maybe even clothing, you can patent it and nobody can copy it. You get to make the money. So when you guarantee that a person gets to make the money off of their own invention or creativity, that encourages people to be creative. So intellectual property law is an important part in having a level playing field that encourages hard work. Another thing that tries to keep the level playing field is something called free trade. When countries are deciding how to sell stuff across a border between their countries, one of the things that gets promoted in a capitalist economic system is the idea of free trade. So if somebody makes a shirt in China and another person makes a shirt in the US, they can trade them without paying any taxes when that shirt crosses the border. Now the idea of free trade is that, again, it's an equal footing for everybody. Everybody has to compete equally with each other. It doesn't matter what country you live in. Now, not all countries do free trade all the time, and there's three things I want to tell you about that can happen with free trade that are not free trade. The first thing is that a country can put a tariff on a good. So if China is making shirts and we're making shirts and the shirt costs the same, it's a $30 shirt. If China wants to guarantee that its shirt makers don't have to compete with American shirt makers, when we sell our shirts to China, they could put a $10 tariff on each shirt. So all of a sudden, our shirts cost $10 more, and the Chinese shirt makers don't have to compete with the U.S. Another way that countries can protect their own producers is something called a subsidy. So again, U.S. and China shirt makers, we're just going to use that example. Let's say the American government wants to help its shirt makers. They can give a subsidy to a shirt making company. Like they can give them $10 million. A subsidy is an amount of money, like just giving them a money. And then that lowers their production costs. So all of a sudden they can sell their shirts for less money. So in the US and the Chinese were each selling their shirts for $30. The American companies get a subsidy. Now they can sell their shirts for $25 and they can outcompete the Chinese and sell more than the Chinese. So you can have a tariff, you can have a subsidy. Countries can also do something called dumping. Dumping is when a country, let's say France, let's bring France in the example. They have a bunch of shirts that are also for $30. Let's say they want to drive the Americans and the Chinese out of the shirt market. They want to beat them so bad that American companies and Chinese companies will no longer make shirts. The French can dump shirts onto the market and sell them for a really cheap price. So the French government would help the shirt companies in France manufacture them at a lower price and dump millions of shirts and start selling them all over the world for this really low price. Well, the American companies and the Chinese companies wouldn't be able to compete. They would go out of business, and then the French shirt makers would dominate the world market for shirts. So that's called dumping. There's an organization that tries to keep a level playing field when it comes to free trade, international trade, and that's called the WTO, the World Trade Organization. So if France started dumping T-shirts, the U.S. and China could take them to court, like have a dispute, which is like going to the WTO is like going to court, and they can accuse them of dumping, and then the WTO could rule and get all the evidence and make a ruling and say, yes, indeed, France dumped, and there will be a consequence. So the WTO, the World Trade Organization, tries to be the referee in world trade. So those are the terms I wanted to share with you on this short video. I hope they're helpful, and hope they help you understand the next video, which is issues on the U.S.-China agenda.